Okay, today we're doing episode 2 of the recap Fargo. I'm with my friend Stephen Meriwether. How you doing, Stephen?
What's up?
Oh, good. Did you enjoy this episode as much as you did the season premiere?
Not as much, but I still enjoyed it.
I guess not as many people died, so that's not as interesting.
Also, less like what the fuck just happened moments.
But still, great story, great writing, and some good events happen.
Yeah, it's a good story. Let's get into it.
All right. So this episode, we're introduced to the henchmen who are a little ahead of Sam Hess and his people who come into town looking for Sam.
Don't we get introduced to them last episode?
Where did they come in? I thought because I know they were just driving in on this episode. Did they make a little appearance in episode one?
I think they made a little appearance. I think we saw them talking to their boss,
Okay.
and their boss was like, "Something's happening. Go check it out."
Okay. Were we aware that one of them was deaf?
No, plot twist. I don't think he is deaf.
No.
I think it's just their like psychological mind tricks on the people that they kill.
Just kind of freaks him out and want to get him a little agitated, like what the fuck are you doing with this guy, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But I don't know. The TV show makes it seem like he's deaf. I don't think we learned that last episode. I think we learned that this episode.
All right, that's a little plot twist that he isn't really deaf. I didn't even consider that, but I'll put that down.
I just think these guys like thrive on manipulating both physically, emotionally, and mentally the people who they're after. And so I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. I don't know what effect that has on you psychologically, but it definitely has something. But just how big of an effect is it?
Well, remember, if we go forward a little bit, they're at the strip club, and they're like talking to each other, and the guy who they end up killing doesn't assume anything of them because they're like, he was like, "Are you from the circus or something?"
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a way to like disarm people.
Okay. All right.
But anyway,
All
so
right.
so they show up. They're driving to wherever they are in Minnesota. I think they're in. You remember what city they're in Minnesota?
It's not Fargo, is it? Because that's the boss.
No, it's not Fargo. They reference it a few times. I can't remember. The two guys are driving to Minnesota to figure out what happened to Sam Hess. They show up to his workplace, and the first person they talk to says, "You need to talk to Max Gold. He's on the way." Right.
Right.
Max Gold gets there and basically tells him that Sam Hess was stabbed in the back of the head and that they need to find out who did it. Do you remember at the very beginning when Max Gold is sort of talking to him and asking them to find out who did it? He got a little teary up. He sort of was sad that his friend Sam Hess died.
Oh yeah, that's his partner. He's like, yeah, that's my boy. He says he's not a perfect gentleman, but that's my man.
You know, you would think that if you're racist, you don't have any emotions in you at all, but I guess you do. That's interesting. Even racists can be sad.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Takeaway of the episode.
Oh. See, all right, and then after they make a little visit, they tell him obviously, Malvoy, he came to visit.
So they don't know who he is. They just know that some guy came. He was about 6 feet tall, brown hair, and he had a cut on his head, on his like forehead.
Yeah.
And they suspect that that's who actually killed Sam Hess. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I was sort of thinking that this whole episode was going to be about these guys trying to find Malvo and sort of rampaging the town. But in fact, it sort of goes back and forth.
Yeah.
It's on one side, it's about these two sort of gangsters or whatever trying to find Malvo. But then on the other side, it's what's happening with Lester Nygaard. Right.
Oh, Did you know the scene right before the officer showed up and he was like crying with his wife? What
Yeah.
was that was the most awkward weeping.
I think what he was trying to do was he knows at some point he's going to have to fake tears
Yeah.
for his wife's death. And he was practicing. He was holding her old clothes
Yeah.
and like trying to get himself to cry.
Oh.
And it did not sound normal.
No.
I think it's okay because I don't think he's normal. I think no matter what noises come out of his mouth, everyone in town is just going to be like, well, that's Lester.
We need to have. You think they're gonna show any flashbacks of young Lester?
Maybe.
Because the fact that the new chief is just like Lester is kind of such a pussy. Like, why are you even considering Lester? Like, stop talking about Lester. Like, it's Lester Nygaard. Like, it's little Lester. Like, I'm like, man, this poor man. Like,
One time in second grade, Lester killed a fly and he fainted.
Yeah, it's like, it's Lester. It's like,
It's Lester.
chill, Molly. It's Lester.
I'm surprised that they didn't let the new chief say the N-word.
Oh, he was about to.
He was about to.
He just, with any regards, his nickname was Lester. Like, man, there's no one in Minnesota gives a fuck, huh?
So you have the old chief, Chief Thurman, and
Rest
his
in
like
peace.
right-hand gal was Officer Somali, and Officer Somali is trying to avenge her chief's death, and so she is convinced that Lester had something to do with it. Turns out she's right.
Huh.
The new chief, I don't even remember his name.
Bill Oswald.
Chief Oswald can't tell a shoe from his own boot or whatever that was. Can't tell a sock from his shoe or something. He's clueless. Not only is he clueless, but he is really enjoying being chief. Do you remember that scene when he was like rearranging his office?
Oh yeah, just already taking up. Like, man, the man just died. Taking his name off the
I think that's
office.
a little too soon. He's over like, no, move it over an inch. Move it over an inch.
He has the
Perfect.
classic talking bass fish, the one that flops on the wall.
Yeah. And so one of the sort of plot things that I'm sort of putting away in the back of my head is Lester keeps saying that he hasn't seen Sam Hess since high school.
Why?
Why?
It's a small town.
That's such a easily provable falsehood, and there's going to be this huge target on his back if that ever gets found out. Not to mention, like, Officer Molly is already onto him, but like, I don't understand why you have to say that.
It made no sense.
You're trying to get away with the crime. You don't say that.
And he had a good story when he was saying, like, I had a concussion, things are blurry. But, like, if you're going to say I'd never, like, that's the main key guy. I haven't seen him since high school. You're a 40-year-old man in 20 years living in this town. You never came across
There's like
him.
100 people in the town.
And you never came across. And then the fact that, like, oh, I didn't know him, but he bullied me. Like, come on, man. You're just.
Let's back up a second. So, pretty early on in the show, you have Officer Molly and the new chief. Officer Molly is insistent on asking Lester some questions. And so they show up at Lester's residence, and Lester's sort of fumbling through his answers. He killed his wife. He got the chief killed. He faked his own injury, and so he probably has a guilty conscience or whatnot. But so they're talking to the new chief and to Officer Molly, and he's sort of fumbling through his words. And at some point, he's like, "I have a concussion. Like, I had a concussion. I don't remember much." And the new chief is like, "Yeah, Molly, he doesn't remember much. We should leave him alone." And did you see Lester's face? He smiles so hard, like he just found his like getaway car. And then ever since then, he's just been like concussion. I don't remember. Concussion. I don't remember. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
He was trying different things. He finally found something that stuck, and you could see the smile on his face because he was so happy knowing that he just found it. Like we said, the episode flops back and forth with Officer Molly sort of interviewing Lester, and Lester trying to get away with his crime, and then the two thugs trying to find Malvo.
Yeah.
And so they show up at the strip club that Sam has died, and talk us through what happened there.
All right. They talk to the stripper. They kind of ask her a little bit about, did she see the guy, blah, blah, blah. And they point him out to a guy who has a little cut on his forehead, who likes to get a little feisty with people. And then when they go and question him, what does he have? A giant blade. I'm like, they find a guy with a cut on his head, likes to get a little angry and agitated with people, and then has a blade. Like, perfect. I thought that was going to be, Lester's ticket to, like, freedom, to the mob's not coming after him, and boom, they found the guy.
Second takeaway from this show is if I ever have a cut on my head and two guys come up to me and ask me how I got it, I'm just gonna tell the truth. I'm not gonna play smart, because that guy played smart and he ended up literally in a frozen ocean. In a frozen lake.
Love that way to kill a guy. I wish I lived in Minnesota, because I didn't think about the blood. You can't trace anyway if you want to shoot him, because you could just let him drown. Or if you did want to shoot him too, like, just take him out there and cut a hole in the middle of a lake and just drop him. Like,
you frequently find yourself in need of drop zones for bodies?
If I did, I'm just saying that would be a great option, rather than like burning it or it smells or something. Like Minnesota winter, take care of it. So
interesting. Okay, so your takeaway is move to Minnesota just in case.
Just in case, they got riots and stuff. If I need to get rid of a body, I know where to go.
Wow. And so you have this guy who's sitting at the bar of the strip club. He's got brown hair. He's maybe the right height. He's got a little cut on his forehead. He sort of matches the description. He's playing smart. He thinks the two guys are gay and that they're hitting on him. Another just bad move, like just terrible luck for this guy. Next scene, he's in the back of the car in the trunk, and they're back to Max Gold. Sam has his lawyer, and they say, "Is this the guy?" Turns out he's not the guy, because he's not Lauren Malvo. And I actually thought this was sort of stupid, but I thought they were gonna let him go.
Yeah, I didn't, but.
A few scenes later, they pull up to a lake that's frozen over. They take out a big saw to cut a hole in it. They drag him to the hole, drop his body. He's gone.
Yeah, that's all we know of him.
That's all we know. And they just keep looking.
You know what we kind of missed?
What's that?
Duluth.
Duluth. That's the name.
Duluth. No, that's the
name of
new
the city.
town. That's the new town. That's the new town.
Oh, that's the new town. You're
That's
right.
the new
Duluth.
town. We missed
That is
Duluth.
the new town.
Yeah.
Okay, so Malvo is he's a hired gun. He's a hired hitman.
Yeah.
He did his thing in the old town. He did this little side quest with Lester, and now he's on to the next big thing, which apparently has something to do with. So he shows up in Duluth. What's interesting is he clearly has a boss, or like someone gives him this work, right?
Yeah.
He shows up to like the post office.
I'm assuming that's how he gets, like, who does he talk to? His next target to talk to.
Yeah. I thought maybe he was like independent. I'm not sure. He's clearly being directed where to go. He shows up to the post office. He asks for a package. The guy who runs the post office is like, I need some ID or I can't give it to you. And he's basically like, you can do whatever you want. You don't need ID. And if you ask me again, I'm going to kill you. And not so many words. And so the guy gives him the package. and inside is a book. Do you remember the title of the book?
It was something Phoenix or King Phoenix, was it?
Maybe it was King Phoenix, yeah, because it was definitely King something.
Yeah. And he's like
Um,
Phoenix, something about his name is Phoenix or something.
I'm not sure. So his next sort of target, I guess, like you said, is there's this really rich guy who's like the king of groceries in Duluth. I didn't realize that being like the king of produce, you get so many enemies, but
Well, I mean,
what do I know?
does he specialize in mangoes in the winter, or does he just have a super? Because I'm like, why was it so big a deal that he has mangoes in January?
Okay, I think that's how he became the king. Is because he imported mangoes in January, and
In Minnesota.
like there's a lot of competition for mangoes,
Yeah.
and so you have to cross some people, and you form enemies.
He did say you. I know you form a lot of enemies being the supermarket king. Okay. All right.
Okay, I guess that's Minnesota for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
And he has a very special son. We won't go too far into him, but he's
I think the son has good jokes.
of course you do. No. I'm just
Wow. Wow.
I'm just kidding. The son is just a little special. That's all.
JD, what kind of bone does a dog not eat?
I didn't even get that. A trombone.
A trombone. Because it's an instrument. You don't eat instruments.
You
That's a
can't.
good joke.
A dog would literally chew on a trombone, though. That's the thing. Like I don't get it because a dog would just chew on it.
But you know what is not the right answer? A
What?
chicken bone.
I didn't get. Well, he'll choke on it. You're not supposed to give him a chicken bone. I don't get it. I didn't get why he said chicken
That joke went
bone.
over. You had your head and the
Kid.
the son's
Son.
head.
Of course it went, but it wasn't funny. And that was a Malvo joke. That wasn't the son's joke.
That was an awful, but that was some comedic relief from the intensity of the episode.
Well, no, he thought he was going to get discovered, so he had to give him a riddle to not get him to, tell him that he was at the dad's shop just the other day.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
He came with it quick because he knew the riddle would keep him occupied. So, because he said, "Hey, you were from the store," and then he immediately told the riddle, so he didn't expand on that.
Oh, look at that. Malvo thinking on his feet. I didn't even catch that. Good catch.
He is a hitman. He gotta be.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Good catch. And so he's trying to find out. So this king of produce or whatever, king of mangoes, was basically someone threatened him and saying that they were going to steal his money or kill him or something and wanted money in return. So he hired Malvo, and Malvo's now trying to find who the killer is,
Right.
or who this person who threatened the king of mangoes is. And the king of mangoes says, if you're going to start anywhere, start with my wife. And he has a great quote about his wife. Do you remember?
Was it the 50%, or she was Greece? Something about her
Yeah.
being Greek?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. What was it?
I don't remember exactly, but it was something about teeth.
Oh, her vagina gets teeth
Yeah.
after 40.
Yeah, there you go. And so he goes and goes to question the wife. The wife is living in a gorgeous home. This is just a beautiful home.
Yeah.
And that's when he runs into the son. He ran into the son at the grocery store or whatever. He ran into the son at the home, and so he told the joke. After he left the grocery store, he hopped into a car. It looks like he stole the car. Did you catch
Oh, yeah, that man unloaded his groceries, because that's what he does. Because he goes from car to car, so you can't really trace him.
That's
And
what I thought. That's why it looked like he stole the car.
yeah, and he just hopped in
All
that
right.
old man's car who unloaded the groceries, and that was his next vehicle.
All right. So the one scene I didn't understand is uh, there's now like a statewide hunt for this person who killed the sheriff or who killed the chief and then who killed these other people. And so there's a scene at the end of the last episode where a cop pulls over Malvoy, and Malvoy is like bloodied and sweaty, and you can tell he just did something. And Malvo essentially threatens this cop and says, like, if you want to go home tonight to see, like, do you have any family or do you have any children? If you want to go home to see them, you let me go.
Yeah.
And the cop let him go. And you see in this episode, now there's this statewide hunt for this guy. And this cop who let Malvo go is given a description of who the killer is. And he recognizes that as Malvo. And sort of the next scene, you see him at home and he's talking to his little girl. And his little girl is asking him about bullies. And she's like, what do you do when a bully has a knife or a gun or is bigger than you? Like, how do you stop them? And the dad's like, well, sometimes you don't do anything because, life's more important. And the daughter's like, well, I disagree. Like, you should always stop bullies. But there's this scene where he's like looking out the window or looking in the next bedroom and his wife or some woman is like undressing.
Yeah.
What's going on there? I didn't understand that.
I think that's just to provide a little just sexual tension for, you know what I mean? It's just like comic relief. People need a little sexual relief. And I think that's all that is.
Because like, you see him looking at this woman undressing, and then they immediately cut to, like, him with his daughter.
But then do you not see them make little eyes at each other across the window when they're eating dinner?
I do, but they don't show him, like, getting up and walking to the room. They just, like, show the little eyes and then, like, next scene.
Yeah. I think they're just kind of...
I wasn't sure if he was imagining it. So you think it was real, and it was just sort of, like, a scene, and it just moved on.
Yeah. To where, like, they might have a little relationship that's just to add some, sexual tension to the show. Doesn't really have anything to do with the storyline.
That happened, and I didn't really get it. But, okay, that makes sense.
But that's what... Do you remember last episode when I was saying Colin Hanks? That's who I was talking about. I said...
Oh.
He was...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were introduced to him. Because he's a pretty famous actor, which I don't know if he's going to be around long, knowing that people died depending on how famous they are. So, same thing I realized a little with Molly. When I was seeing Molly and her dad towards the end of the episode, I had a feeling she's about to die, honestly.
I did too.
Yeah.
Especially her dad was like, you're meddling and stuff you shouldn't be meddling in. So her and the new chief went to go talk to Lester. Lester was like, I have this concussion. And the chief's like, you're right. I don't think it was Lester. I think it was someone else. And he told Officer Molly, to leave Lester alone. Yeah. Officer Molly is convinced it was Lester. And so she finds him at like a pharmacy and starts questioning him. And Lester gets really upset and drives away. Ends up calling the new chief. And is like, I'm being harassed. Can you please tell Officer Molly not to harass me? And so the new chief goes to the diner that Molly's dad works at, finds Officer Molly there, and basically like puts the hammer down.
Ooh.
He says, I'm in charge now. The whole department needs to align around me. You didn't do that, so now you're off the case. And then just walks out.
See, I don't think... He doesn't realize because then he's like, I'm doing you a favor. I'm putting you lead on that other case. But he doesn't realize that they're connected, and I bet her digging with that other case is why 100%. She's going to be dead.
100%.
Yeah. That's going to kill her because she's going to fucking be digging up all the info and be like, oh, these are connected. And yep.
So season 1, episode 1 opens with Malvo with a guy in his trunk, and he's like got to do something with this guy. They get into an accident, and Malvo escapes, and this guy ends up getting out of the trunk. He doesn't have any clothes on. It's Minnesota winter, and so he ends up freezing to death a few hundred yards past the wreck. And you see Chief Thurman and Officer Molly sort of go and investigate and see this guy there. And so fast forward back to where we are in episode 2, the new chief is like, you're off the case investigating the death of Chief Thurman. You're now on the case of this frozen guy in the frozen desert, who was killed by Malvo, who killed Officer Thurman, who like helped Lester kill his wife, and it's all interconnected. And so I actually think this is Molly's big break. She can now work on this case, and I don't think the new chief is going to be sort of wise to what she's doing. She's going to have total freedom, and yeah, she's going to end up dying.
Yeah. Poor Molly.
I agree. But she's like the only hope for good. So maybe not. Maybe she sticks around as like the hope for good, and she'll continue being the hope for good.
Or the Duluth guy who, with the daughter, one of them is going to die. I think we definitely need to have a bet on who's going to die first.
Yeah, that's true.
Because one of them is going to be like the good, and one of them's definitely dying soon. Within 2 episodes.
If I had to guess, who dies first, it's the Duluth guy. That's my guess.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed, because just knowing he's a little more famous, I think they may make him a character of the show, and she dies.
I can't see. That would be so tragic if Officer Molly died. That would be so tragic.
Like, we like Lester.
She's the embodiment of like good soul, good spirit.
But Lester's not
looking to do
bad.
Good. Yes, he is. We skipped over a crucial scene, which is he's now living back in his home where he killed his wife in the basement, and he goes down and he still sees his wife's pile of blood in the basement, which is like sort of dried into the concrete, and he walks past it. He then sort of moves his washer or dryer, opens it up in the back, and has the murder weapon.
Oh, what he did with the murder weapon, I wrote that down. Like, that is genius on him. That is criminal.
Oh my God. Another thing you're writing down, just in case.
Hide the murder weapon. And
I mean, yes, you should hide it or dispose of it or something, but I did not think that he hid it behind the washer.
I know. I came out there. I'm just like, this man knew exactly how to hide his before I'm going to run into the wall, let me hide the murder weapon with my fingerprint.
And so I think the fact that he killed his wife, he didn't just kill his wife accidentally. Through like a fit of rage, he killed his. Okay, like if he just like slipped if he had a knife in his hand and like
Who slips hard enough?
Like, maybe. He said, "Stop talking to me." Boom to the head, dead, and then he said, "Oh, in fact, I hate you," and he just kept going. Just like, how many times did he hit her?
Hey, as a psychologist, okay,
Oh my gosh.
the 20 years, just as a battered woman, okay, we hear all the time, this is a battered man. You saw she won't even buy him nice things unless she's like, you're not a good salesman, so I won't buy you a nice tie. I won't make you good food because you're not a good man. I should have fucking married your husband. Those emasculate this poor man that's already 5'2".
I agree. She was abusive. That does not give you the right to kill her.
I'm just saying.
I am anti-death.
I mean, we hear all the times, there's literally shows called Snapped when women are abused the whole time and go, give Lester a little break. Because a man that is not of appropriate size and just has bullied his whole life and then his wife does it, you have no sympathy for this man?
Okay.
That's. I'm coming from the male. This is a modern man podcast. Okay, I am trying to be have a little
You're coming
sympathy
from the
for the
male
man.
perspective.
Okay.
Look. In a vacuum, maybe you'll find an ounce of sympathy. I don't think so, but maybe. What's not being said here is Chief Thurman shows up, recognizes that his wife is dead in the basement and he did it, and Lester is about to kill him.
No, he's not about to kill Thurman.
Lester is not going to jail.
He's not gonna kill Thurman. He pussies out quick. He gets on his knees.
I don't think so.
Little Lester's.
I think he had a rage in his eyes.
What?
And if Malvo wasn't there to kill Chief Thurman for him, he was going to do it himself.
That little man is not killing any man who can fight back. He just saw an opportunity to ding his wife and then thought he made the biggest mistake of his life when she was still alive. And then he's like, oh shit, no, she's actually dead. Yay. Like,
Clearly not. He was very happy with what he did.
He wasn't happy with the consequence. And usually if you're saying someone committed first degree, they know the consequence they committed. He just knew the action. He didn't know the consequence of his action at the time.
Bro, I'm going to stop you there. What he did was a terrible, horrible thing. He did not accidentally kill his wife. He purposefully killed his wife with intent and then continued to drive a knife through her after she was dead. He lived out some fantasy he's had for a long, long time.
Because of the abuse. I will stand by that. All right.
Wow.
And
next episode, we're going to bring in a lawyer.
All right.
I think that's it.
Good way to end it, you think so?
I think so. Jeez.
All right. Hopefully, episode 3, we find out he takes care of the man who has a hit on the supermarket king. Hopefully, Molly dies, according to me. I think she's going to die.
I think by next episode, we need to figure out what happens to the loser of this bet. Because by episode 4, the officer's dying.
Yeah.
Not Molly, but the guy to lose. No. And I need to know what's going to happen.
Right. Or it could be the chief. What if the chief throws a wild card in there and the chief dies? That would definitely throw a little whoop whoop.
If Malvo hears the chief talk, he's just going to keep on moving.
He's like, keep going down his leads. We need that.
Him being alive helps everybody out. All the criminals.
Everybody, all parties.
Him being in charge helps you out.
Which only means he's only going to die even more.
It is open game right now in small town Minnesota.
Either way, I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, me too.
Till next week, Stephen. Good talking to you.
All right.